Alright guys, so this is a little video tutorial on how to use pivot tables to process your questionnaire data in Google Sheets. So the first part is going to be how to select and format the data you need. Your data from your questionnaire in Google Forms has been put into a spreadsheet automatically. It looks like this. Across the top you have the column headings, and each column heading is one of the questions in the questionnaire. You have what generation are you from, etc. Each column is a question, and each row is an individual person's response. And you can see we have about 370 individual responses, which is good because it gives us a nice big sample size to work with. However, it's a lot of data to process, so pivot tables are a way to pull out the data we need and leave out the stuff we don't need for each question and create some graphs. So what you need to do is you go to your data menu. Actually, before you select everything by clicking in the top corner, and then you go to your data menu and click pivot table. It generates a new tab and you get an editing field over on the right hand side. You need to click on rows and select what generation are you from. Our questionnaire is all about comparing generations, so we want to be able to separate the responses of the different generations. Now we want to choose one of the questions to look at the different responses. So let's choose if you're in a relationship, leave, and you're in the columns field over here, and you add that question. And then the next section is to add values, and we're going to actually, what you need to do is choose exactly the same question again for the values. Those scores are the number of 4s, 5s, etc. in that question. We actually need to convert that just to a raw number of responses for each question from each generation. So you need to change where it says sum to count A, and you'll see the numbers change, and that gives the number of responses for each question. Now what we need to do is actually copy this table, because the data in that table is locked and we can't edit it. You need to copy the whole table, so right click to copy, paste special, and paste values only. That doesn't leave any calculations in to mess around with us. So I'm just going to add some borders so it's easier to see what's what. Now we need to edit down anything that's empty when we get rid of those rows. So you click over on the side there, go delete row, and I'm going to delete this column here that has nothing in it because it's just wasted space. We don't need that data. Now we're going to add some headings to make our data make more sense. We're going to add the heading generation, and then where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to put the actual descriptors for what those selections mean. From strongly disagree through neutral up to strongly agree. The reason we do this is because this is what the data on our graph is going to show. So 1s and 5s and 4s, etc. don't make much sense. And this relates directly to the question we asked. So we can actually put what their responses were into the graph in a meaningful way. And there's our questionnaire showing you the responses they gave. However, we need to convert it to percentages after this. The reason for this is you'll see that there's a different number of responses from people in different generations. There's only 41 baby boomers compared to, say, 172 Gen Zs. So comparing just the numbers of responses between them is going to be misleading. We need to get the proportion of people in each generation that responded. This is how we do it, is to create another column and create a percentage so we can then directly compare each generation. What I'm doing here is inserting some blank columns next to each of the existing columns. And you just go up to the top and right click and go insert left or insert right, doesn't matter as long as it's consistent. We're going to put a formula into these cells. Now if you just click and pull that little corner box across, it will copy what's in that cell across. That's just to keep the same heading, so those headings remain in our graph. Once we've done the headings, we'll put formulas into the cells. We want the number of responses over the total from that generation times 100. So you click in that blank cell, type equals, and click on the number of responses, type slash, click on the total for that generation, type an asterisk for multiplied, and type 100. Hit enter, and that gives you the percentage. Now you can fill down that formula by clicking on that cell and dragging the little corner box down across the other generations. And we repeat the process. Type equals, number of responses, slash, over total, times 100, enter, gives the percentage. Fill down, and equals, number, divided by total, times 100 gives you the percentage. And fill down again. And we're just repeating that process. Bit of an error there, just undo and repeat that process. Equals, number, divided by total, times 100. Enter. Fill down. And one more time. This is going to give us the percentage of each generation that gave particular responses, and we'll be able to directly compare them, which we can't do with the numbers because they're different numbers of people from each generation. I'm just making these column headings bold, and I'm selecting the individual columns by holding down Control. Just making them bold so I can easily tell which ones are the ones with a percentage in them. Now I'm reducing the number of decimal places. We're selecting the entire columns, again with the Control key, reducing and hitting the decimal places button. Now we can create a graph. Hold down Control, select the columns you want, which is the ones with the percentages and the generations columns. Clicking and dragging across the cells we want, but don't include the grand total row or column. We don't want that. Click the Insert Chart button up the top, or go to the Insert menu and click Chart. What you want is a stacked column graph, because this will show you each generation. You can compare them directly. You can see the proportion of the generations that answered each question and what answer they gave. You can see that lots of baby boomers, for example, clicked neutral, and a greater proportion of Gen Zs, for example, clicked strongly agree. You can edit this chart. You have chart types button for different types of chart. You have the customization menu, which is where you put titles and you can edit colors, etc. So click on customization, and we want the chart title to be the same as the question from the questionnaire. So go to your questionnaire and you can copy and paste that text directly, and go into the title field and paste that title in. Hit enter, and that gives you the title for your graph. And there are other customization features you might want to use there. Once you've done that, you can click Insert, and it will put the graph into your spreadsheet on the same page as the pivot table. If you want to edit your graph further, all you've got to do is click on it, and there's a little drop down menu in the corner, little downward pointing arrow. You just go to Advanced Edit, and you can change your titles, etc. in there again and update it by pressing the Update button. One thing that's quite handy, and you might need to do for some of your graphs, if we just go back to edit this graph, is switch the rows and columns that the graph is reading from. If we go to our chart types column menu, I'll show you what that means. You click on the switch rows to columns, and you see it swaps the two variables around. So you've got generations and the answers. You can have the generations across the bottom or in the legend on the side, and depending on what your graph is trying to show, one of those options is going to make more sense than another. It will be easier to interpret one way than the other. So have a play with that if you're confused about the data and see if it makes more sense one way or the other.